Hey everyone, Camden here with the Ranking Ball preview show for March 20th, 2019. Let's go. Here are your standings after last night's games. We have the Indiana Pacers have clinched a playoff spot, whereas the Atlanta, Chicago, Cleveland, and New York are now officially eliminated from playoff contention. In the West, Golden State and Denver are still the only teams that have clinched the playoff contention, whereas the Pelicans, Grizzlies, Mavs, and Suns are now out of playoff contention. Here are your scores after last night's games. The 76ers beat the Hornets, Rockets beat the Hawks, Bucks beat the Lakers, Warriors beat the Wolves, Nets in a surprising finish, down 26 points in the fourth quarter, came back to win the match against the Kings. And finally, we have the Clippers over the Pacers. Tonight's matchups, we have Bucks at Cavs, Pelicans at Magic, Celtics at 76ers, Jazz at Knicks, Wizards at Bulls, Rockets at Grizzlies, Heat at Spurs, Raptors at Thunder, and the Mavs at Blazers. In your sports news, in the NBA, Bucks have signed guard Tim Frazier to replace Malcolm Brogdon, who will miss the remainder of the season with a right foot injury. In the NFL, a lot of signings going on today. Randall Cobb has agreed to sign a one-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys. Former Packers linebacker Clay Matthews has agreed to sign a 2-year deal with the LA Rams. And then after being released by the Bengals, Vontaze Burfict signs a 1-year deal with the Raiders. And in MLB, in a surprising signing, the Angels have Mike Trout for 12 more years under a $430 million contract. This makes the single largest contract ever signed in sports in general. So after a long off season where Bryce Harper was one of the touted free agents this year, he might have to go back and fire his agent because Mike Trout, who is slated to become a free agent next year, signed an extension for 12 more years with the Angels. Mike Trout was also in talks to go to the Phillies next year. He was, if the Phillies weren't able to sign Bryce Harper, or they thought maybe they would not get him and instead go after Mike Trout. But as the way things look, Bryce Harper is the Phillies, and Mike Trout is with the Angels. Tonight's featured match is the Heat at Spurs. That is at 8:30 Eastern. Injuries going into tonight, out again is Justice Winslow and Rodney McGruder. For the Spurs, there are no injured players. During your previous game, where the Heat beat the Thunder 116-107, we have your previous game starters: Olynyk, James Jr., Adebayo, Waiters, and Richardson. The Spurs beat the Warriors in the previous outing 111-105, and their starters were Aldridge, Pilto, White, DeRozan, and Forbes. Tonight's starters, you should not see any changes going into tonight, as Winslow is still hurt and out of the starting rotation. Here are your highest FP averages going into tonight's game. Highlighted in red are players who are not playing, including Justice Winslow and Rodney McGruder. Some of these Heat playoff averages right now are not reflective of what's going on currently with the team, being that Josh Richardson is not one of the top scorers right now, along with Whiteside. So even though Josh Richardson in the beginning of the year, a lot of these numbers are a little bit skewed because of earlier in the season games, and also it's not reflective of what's going on right now with the current team's roster and how they're performing. Spurs are a different side of the story. They are performing exactly the way that the current performance is going with them. So the whole team has been very consistent throughout the whole year. Here is my winning 16, which means you have how many minutes, so it's FP by 48, which means how many points can you expect per minute by each player going into tonight's game. So in the top three, we have DeMar DeRozan, Aldridge, and Josh Richardson. However, Josh Richardson probably would be a little bit down. Someone who you should expect in the top three would be Dwayne Wade and Dragic. So those two players are actually outperforming, even though they're coming off the bench. They're actually 2-year best FP by 48 winners in the last 3 to 5 games. So I would advise you to choose Wade or Dragic in your starting lineup. Here are stats going into tonight's games. I get my stats from NBAstats.com and also basketballreference.com. What I asked my viewers to do is to pause the video, take a minute to look over what's going on, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the last 5 games. Heat are 3-2, where the Spurs are 5-0. Heat are averaging 103, and the Spurs are averaging 112 points per game. I've talked about earlier, the Heat are very defensive-minded going into these matches. With Winslow out, there's maybe a little bit less production with points, maybe a little bit less production with defense. But we saw that they had a really awesome game against the Thunder. Granted, Russell Westbrook was out that game. They still performed very well. We got a lot of good games by Wade and Dragic and Richardson. So expect both teams to be very consistent. You don't have a Spurs team who actually shoots a lot of points. They are consistent, throughout the whole years. The whole years that we've known the Spurs, they're very consistent. You can expect high performance from that team. He could be sporadic, but right now they're in this playoff push where they want to get out. There's a close race between the Nets, Magic, and the Heat want to maintain this 8th seed, and possibly I think they want to get to 7. That way they don't have to face the Bucks going into the playoffs in the first round. I think there should be a little bit of the same performance. They had a day off. There's no back-to-back, so they had a 1 day to rest, and so you should see a little bit of good performances by Wade, Dragic, Richardson, maybe probably Adebayo, and Olynyk. Olynyk has performed very, very well recently, actually, and he should be a top contender with who you're placing in a high position tonight. Yeah, another thing to look into, the Heat are causing a little bit more turnovers than the Spurs. So let's hope that that's one thing I did notice past couple of games, that the Heat were turning the ball over. So the Heat will get really, really hot, but then what will happen is that they might go on a streak that they'll go 11-0, like 0-11 through stretches throughout the time, especially in the third quarter. Here's my draft board. So what I did is I created my draft going into tonight. I'm gonna set up my RankingBall board. What I've included in my first line X here: DeRozan, Aldridge, Wade, and Dragic. And it's kind of surprising you're putting 2 bench players on this main line usually, which is set for the starting players. But the Heat are in this predicament where pretty much anybody could be a starter. However, Wade's coming off the bench, which is good for him. Dragic coming off the bench, which is good for him. So I think the minutes that Dragic and Wade are playing they're producing a lot more. So what I did is I put 2 starters on my second important line. So I have Olynyk and Adebayo. Olynyk and Adebayo, I performed well, but as I've been going through the past 3 games, Dragic and Wade out. Besides of Winslow are your top 3 point getters for the Miami Heat. Whereas with the Spurs, you have Aldridge and DeRozan. That's maintained. I mean, they're always going to be always up there. As long as they're playing, they're going to be your top performers. Derek White, Rudy Gay, they're going to be performing as well. Everything else is all up to you on the edges. You might want to put I put Deion Waiters right here, and this is more like another important spots. I put 2 Heat players there. Waiters has been performing like the past 3 games, like three games ago it was fine. It's getting a little bit better. So expect this is a pretty good line here with 2 Patty Mills, Deion Waiters. I think there's gonna be some good synergy going into tonight. This is a starting rotation right here. So top 3 to take out from tonight. Heat numbers are deceiving with fantasy points on Ranking Ball. Please use my numbers that I'm giving you, the advice I'm taking you as to I'm not even putting Whiteside in here because he's only averaging like 5 minutes per game and like 2 points. So Whiteside is not performing, is not even like close to producing the numbers that he was doing in the early of the year. I call my top 3 and 3, which is for the Heat you have Wade, Dragic, Adebayo. Spurs you have DeRozan, Aldridge, and Gay. Final tip is that Spurs are playing to their averages, so however you want to lay out the Spurs and the rest of the Heat players is up to you. Kind of get, I would say, put players who are closely on a roster, who are closely going to play a line together, put them on a row or a line, and you should see a lot of key strategies that got a lot of key synergies going into tonight and scoring you a lot of points. So that's it for today's Ranking Ball preview show. I want to thank everyone for watching. Don't forget to go to coinbene.com if you haven't signed up, so you can start exchanging RBG token and buying or selling RBG tokens. You can also follow us on Telegram if you have any questions, and also our other social medias listed in the information below. So have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.